You have to understand that my career has been steeped in disappointments. It went before my career. When I was in second grade, before I was the pompous man I am today, I was a pretentious child, because that's how it works. Pretense matures into pomposity. And I carried around a copy of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment with me. I kept Marvel Comics stuck in between the pages that I enjoyed reading, but I wanted people to believe in second grade that I enjoyed melancholic, intellectual, Slavic literature. I didn't actually know any of those words, but my parents used to throw parties. We lived in Schuylerville, New York, and they would throw parties for the other faculty members at Skidmore College where my dad worked. And I was pretty sure the words I had heard were melancholic, Slavic, intellectual literature. And I began very early being sent to the principal's office. I would take issue with something that my teacher had said. And then first she would try writing my name in the doghouse that she had drawn onto the blackboard, into which she wrote the names of students who were in the doghouse. We didn't know the idiom, but we knew that meant you were in trouble. And then I would continue to press my point, and then she would send me to the principal's office. And then my father would have to drive down from Skidmore College and sit with the principal. And instead of just saying, have respect for authority, he would hear both sides of the story and take sides. I remember two of these incidents. One of them, during social studies, this was during the Cold War, my teacher, Mrs. Nichols, explained to us that here in America, we have democracy. And our educational system is about teaching the truth of history and language and math, whereas in the Soviet Union, they brainwashed children into believing that democracy is bad and communism is good. And I raised my hand. I'm sorry, isn't that exactly what you're doing right now, only the other way? She wrote my name in the doghouse. And I said, mouthing words that I had heard and was pretty sure I remembered correctly. Besides, you can't compare the two because democracy is a governmental structure and communism is an economic model. And then I had to go to the principal's office. My father had to come down from Skidmore College, told me I had the right of it, walked me back to my classroom. The other time I remember it happening, before the drug war, before Nancy Reagan felt that the best way to solve a nationwide problem with addiction was through a generalized slogan of negativity. Just say no. Come on. The woman did between 4 and 14 Valium a day. It really should have been just saying no. When I want health advice, I turn to a chiseled head on a stick. But this was long before all of that. So our anti-drug messaging came in the form of a health class taught by the gym teacher who came into our classroom and for an hour gave anecdotal evidence to support his premise that drugs are bad. In the course of this lecture, he said, why, right here in Schuylerville, Tommy Ahern was driving down Route 29, joyriding in his dad's car. He had taken LSD, and he was speeding down Route 29 when he hallucinated that a dragon was rearing up out of the pavement in front of him, swerved off the road, slammed into a tree. He was killed instantly, and when the police got to the scene, the speedometer was stuck at 120 miles an hour. Don't do drugs. I raised my hand, feeling very much as though I had solved an Encyclopedia Brown mystery without looking in the back of the book for the how did he know segment. I'm sorry. If he was killed instantly, how do you know what he hallucinated before he went off the road? And then I had to go to the principal's office. my father had to drive down from Skidmore. And as he walked me back from the principal's office to my class, he said, "Dylan, if you have questions, if you have concerns, write them down, hold them for after school. I'll talk to you at home. I can't drive down from Skidmore every time you have an idea. And you're 7. It's not your job to correct every problem in the American educational system." Years later, when I was in the 6th grade, I had already been doing shows. I was the kid that they all went to when they needed a child in a role at Skidmore. Forgive me, when I perform, I sweat like Chris Christie putting on his socks. I had already been doing all these plays at Skidmore College, so my 6th grade teacher came to me and said, "We've had a discussion amongst the faculty. We've decided that you should choose and direct the school play for this year." And I was not surprised at all by this. And I took it very seriously. I started ordering plays from Samuel French mail order service, and reading them with an intensity that a 6th grader ordinarily wouldn't. And I found one that I loved. It was Royal Hunt of the Sun by Peter Schaefer. Is a play about Pizarro's interactions with Atahualpa Inca, and how he came across the ocean and got a bunch of native people to bring him all the gold they owned and then slaughtered them in a genocide in the name of God and Spain. And as the only non-Christian in the school who was often bullied for his lunch money, this play spoke to me. So I put together a director's folder with the 1 page and then a page of the script and then the 1 page so I could make notes. And I was taking it very, very seriously. And I wrote up a budget to present at school and had I not been pretentious and learning to be pompous, I might have just said $48, 6 bolts of red silk. But I wanted everyone to know how clever I was. So I said $48 for 6 bolts of red silk to pour from the mouth of the sun god, representing the rivers of blood shed by the Christian conquistadors in the name of their god during the genocide of the Inca. And had no idea why. 3 days later, I was called out of class in the morning and sent to the lunchroom where I sat with a psychotherapist answering questions for half an hour. Nor why later in the afternoon I was sent to the principal's office while I waited with the principal and the psychotherapist for my dad to drive down from Skidmore. I remember sitting, watching through the window past the principal as my father got out of the family station wagon and walked across the tarmac with those heat waves creating an illusion that his ankles were made of liquid. And he came into the school. He sat down next to me in the principal's office and looked at me, questioned, and I had no idea what was going on. And then there was some fumfering about by the principal, and then finally the psychotherapist said, "Mr. Brody, as you may know, your son was invited to choose and direct the school play for this." And he said, "Yes, he's been very excited about it." I said, "Well, the principal found a troubling item in your son's budget." And my father said, "Oh." And the principal pulled out the budget and read from it, Mr. Brody, your son has requested $48 for 6 full bolts of red silk to pour as blood from the mouth of the sun god, representing the rivers of blood shed by the Christian conquistadors in the name of their god as they exterminated the Inca. And my father turned to me and said, "Are you doing Royal Hunt of the Sun?" That project was taken away from me. Instead of Royal Hunt of the Sun, directed by me, the music director did a prudishly edited version of Oklahoma, that was performed half a tone off key as though it was a conceptual choice. Which is what I said in the review that I submitted to the school paper. Which was rejected in favor of a rave by the art teacher. So I wrote a letter to the editor talking about the danger of Soviet-style censorship and the importance of journalistic independence. Then I had to go to the principal's office. My father had to drive down from Skidmore. I sat there with the principal and the art teacher and the music teacher. My father listened to all the sides of it and read the two pieces and said that, in fact, I was correct, both in my review and in my letter to the editor. But that if I wanted to write persuasive prose, I needed to refrain from emotional bias on the page and ad hominem attack on those people who disagreed with me. I asked him if an ad hominem attack is an attack that sounds just like another attack but has a different meaning. And my father laughed and I smiled and no one else in the room had a clue what we were talking about.